Good evening. Welcome to the RSU5 Board of Directors meeting. It is Wednesday, June 14th, 2023. We are here at the Freeport High School cafeteria for our final scheduled meeting of the 22-23 school year. So congratulations to everyone who's made it through another school year. Thank you very much for all of your work. We will get started with, we're missing Ben. Hopefully he'll be joining us shortly. And I'm not sure about Tegan. She might be studying for finals or cheering on the lacrosse game that's going on, the playoffs outside. So if you hear everyone hooting and hollering, that's a good news because that means our Lady Lacrosse Falcons are doing well out there. So, but we will get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, so we have some adjustments to the agenda, and I know we usually do consideration of minutes first, but there weren't any, but one of the adjustments is to add consideration, so we're going to adjust the adjustments, and I'm going to ask Jean to let us know what those are.
Great. There are several. Under number 8, the superintendent's report, I have a couple other resignations to announce this evening. We're going to add a number 4, special education staffing update. And I would recommend that number 3, the Freeport High School Scholarship Foundation update, that we move that to number 1 under the superintendent's report out of respect for our guests who are present this evening. We're going to add under number 15, personnel. There will be a letter A, consideration and approval to employ a .5 Spanish teacher at Freeport High School for the next school year. Letter B, consideration and approval to employ an assistant principal at Moore Street School for next year. And letter C, consideration and approval to employ a .5 social worker at Durham Community School for next year. We're then going to add a number 19, consideration and approval to enter into executive session for discussions of information contained in records made, maintained, or received by a body or agency when accessed by the general public of those records is prohibited by statute. So we'll add another executive session this evening. And those are all the adjustments for all the business we need to complete this evening.
Okay, that's quite a few. So if I feel like I'm going to, or if you see me flying by one of those, just remind me. Okay, great. All right. Good news and recognition. I don't see Tegan. So if she joins us, we'll move her to a little bit later in the agenda. But in the meantime, we will move on to public comment. Oh, that's right. See, I already went by the first one we were supposed to move. Okay, so in your folders tonight, you'll see purple minutes, and the reason this was on there was because the agenda went out the following morning after our last board meeting, and so these weren't ready yet, but Craig needs them for the co-op, so we need them fully approved, the minutes fully approved for Craig to use those, so that's kind of why those are in there. So I'll give folks a quick second to look through those, because I know you didn't have them ahead of time to take a read. And yes, it does say adjournment, 10:58 p.m. That is not a typo. But I do think that was probably the only late meeting we've had this year, so we'll call that a success. All right, so do I have a motion for consideration and approval of the minutes of the June 7th, 2023 meeting as presented, barring any errors or omissions? Susanna and Colin, thank you. Any comments or questions? Great. All those in favor? None opposed. Thank you. Okay, so now we'll move on to public comment. And I think we have some folks that may be speaking, so we will we'll quickly go through the public comment rules. I know some of you guys have heard this, so forgive me if it's a repeat. But so in order for the board to have fully time to fully consider and discuss the issues on our agenda, we're setting aside 10 minutes right now for public input in order to hear from the largest number of different folks. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes for comments. For those who have not participated before, we have a few rules ahead of time. We ask for speakers to identify themselves with their name and their town of residence. We ask you to try and be brief and not to repeat yourself. We know discussions about school-related issues can be emotional, but to remember that our children are watching and that we are neighbors, so please be civil. We don't permit profanity or shouting at one another or comments that disparage or attack individuals or groups of individuals. Speakers should direct all comments to the board. This is the opportunity for the board to listen to the opinions of the public that relate to school and education matters. It's not a public debate nor a conversation, so no questions should be directed to the board, and the board will not be responding to any questions or comments if asked. We're here to listen. We are not allowed to hear complaints or allegations against staff members. These are personnel issues which the board is not permitted to hear in public. As if there are complaints against staff, these will be handled appropriately through our complaint policy procedure, KEB. And if you're interested in a two-way conversation on the board, on the RSU5 website, individual emails and phone numbers are available for board members as well as the superintendent. So thank you for your patience for the introduction. And if we have any speakers, I probably should have checked before I went through that whole thing to see if we had any speakers, but I'm guessing we do. If we do have folks who would like to speak, we just ask that you queue up here at the podium and push the, it's a little bit of a different mic tonight, so you have one of the mics we have here, which you'll just push the button on the mic, the blue light will come on, which means it's a live mic, and we ask folks to keep their comments to 3 minutes or less.
Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Nate Ledger. I live in Durham, and I'm here standing before you yet again to advocate for parents. At your last meeting, a substitute nurse employed by RSU5 stood here in her personal capacity and said the following, and I quote, "Home is often an unsafe place for children to express themselves." What a bold statement to make, and how dare anyone generalize that children in this district are unsafe in their homes. I'd like to remind all of you that according to the Maine State Revised Statute, Title 22, Section 3476, the following persons shall report to the Department of Health and Human Services when the person knows or has reasonable cause to suspect that a dependent or child has been or is likely to be abused, neglected, exploited, or otherwise harmed or feel unsafe, commonly referred to as a duty to report. The list of mandated reporters is extensive, but it includes all of you, as well as teachers, staff, and most definitely substitute nurses. I'm a former police officer here in this town. I know the school resource officer on a personal level, and I have his direct cell phone number. Should any of you or the staff of RSU5 want to hold a meeting to notify them of a child who feels unsafe at home, I'll be happy to coordinate those meetings for you. Otherwise, this is just a common scare tactic. It's a talking point used to take control of the youth in this district and circumvent the wishes of parents. It's political rhetoric, and frankly, it's dangerous to assume that a child in RSU5 is unsafe in their own homes. To assume that parents don't love their children unconditionally is flat out disrespectful and inappropriate. To take this position of authority and claim that children are unsafe and that you need this policy to protect the youth, it leaves me speechless sometimes. It's becoming clearer and clearer to me that the actual risk some of you fear is that most parents in this district disagree with this policy. Most parents in the district want you to stick to academics, like reading and writing and mathematics. Most parents want you to refrain from thinking that you can have a say in the development of our children. This is not your role. I urge you to please quit while you're ahead, stop pushing this ideology on our children, and get back to academics. Thank you.
Thank you, Nate.
Good evening. Anthony Pringle, father of two from Durham. And while I'd hoped my previous comments regarding the draft transgender student policy, which I'd then based on irrefutable facts and citable history, with the distinction that my advocacy was for the equal rights and protection of all, would be received with logic and reason, I unfortunately find myself here again to correct the record based on recent claims from others regarding this issue. Now, before I address those claims, I'd first like to cite the rules of this forum that we were even just recently reminded of before every opportunity to speak. Being neighbors, the hope is civility, and yet both within these meetings and following in online settings, parents who simply express their concern for the well-being of all children under the umbrella of acceptance, necessarily balanced with equal rights for all, we face misrepresentation and slander for it. Disinformation, hate speech, transphobia, just a few of the terms I've witnessed carelessly thrown in the direction of parents who dare advocate for the safety of all children from the demonstrated reality of what can happen when policies like these are hastily implemented without consideration for real-world consequences and the often irrational actions of children who are subjected to them. No matter, these words quickly lose all meaning when abused so frequently. It's hard to believe I can directly cite multiple examples of students sexually assaulting fellow students in bathrooms, which don't correspond with their biological genders, while also making the case that I acknowledge trans students and want for them a safe environment as well, only to be slandered as a transphobe. But I urge strong caution for the name-calling to stop. I can assure you that it is neither what is in my heart nor the nature of my advocacy. We're entitled to our own opinions, but not our own facts, especially when libeling others. I won't stand here and make a statement not based on facts that I can't substantiate, and I won't apologize if those facts are difficult for you to hear, but I would encourage you to reconcile with them. Finally, I have heard references to sides in what is unnecessarily shaping up to be a battle between camps. This doesn't need to be the case. Does anyone in the community who sees me as an enemy of your social values not also want the best for your children and mine alike? Then why insist on subjecting any of them to environments which have proven dangerous? Appeals to emotion will not suffice when so much tangible risk to the safety of our students is on the line. On one hand, some stand here and cite the unfortunate bullying of trans students, and then in the next breath insist to force them into environments where other students have no recourse for the invasion of their privacy. As a 10-year veteran of foreign wars, with the simple hope of returning home to peace, I have grown tired of fighting when common ground can be readily found between logical parties. But if it's fight the communities after, they've found the absolute line in the sand that myself and an increasingly less than silent majority of the parents will be more than willing to stand for. I wish you all an enjoyable summer. Let's take some well-deserved time to deeply consider the implications of our future actions here and reconvene in the fall to find a solution for all students that doesn't involve infringing on the rights of any. In the meantime, I welcome those who might otherwise shoot me silent looks of scorn in these meetings to open your minds, embrace the diversity of thought that you so often preach, and reach out to collectively find a solution that doesn't create an even bigger problem. I'm betting the community won't, but I'll be here if they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Any other public comments? Okay. So we will move on to item 8 on our agenda, report from the superintendent.
And we are going to move up item 3, Freeport High School Scholarship Foundation update. So we invite folks from the Scholarship Foundation to the podium.
Hi, good evening. My name is Stephanie Payne, and I'm a board member and the current president of the Freeport High School Scholarship Foundation. I live in Freeport, and I am with this wonderful man.
We're not together, we're just friends.
Introduce yourself, please, sir.
Okay. I'm not used to being called a wonderful man. My name's Fred Palmer. I live in Freeport, and I was one of 2 people who was fortunate enough to start the Freeport High School Scholarship Foundation. And the reason we started it was it came out of an idea. I used to, after I retired, I wanted to spend more time with my granddaughters who live in Cumberland, and so I coached girls lacrosse over there for 6 years. And that was fun, but what was kind of distressing was when the kids who were coming up through the high school and getting ready to go to college, many of them had big dreams about where they wanted to go and what they were going to do in their college experience. But when it came time to make decisions, they discovered that they didn't have enough money in their family to be able to support what that was. So John Patterson and I got together, and he and I had worked on the track and field project together, and we decided that we would try to put a foundation together which would award meaningful scholarships, and we recruited Stephanie from the track and field project because she did such a wonderful job there. And we began the program, and she'll tell you a little bit about it, and then I'm going to come back.
Thank you. So the Freeport High School Foundation was established in 2021 to provide multi-year awards to students for either college. Well, originally it was just for college, four-year programs. And then last year we added vocational and trade programs as well. And the students apply and are awarded scholarships based on academic achievement, community involvement, and need. We're not looking for the highest, the number one in the class necessarily. We want kids that our scholarships are really going to make a difference. They're not going to get the giant packages necessarily from colleges. And so our scholarship, which for 4 years is $5,000 a year, each year for the 4 years, and then for vocational and technical school, it's up to $4,000 a year for 2 years. So we're an all-volunteer, community-driven organization that relies on the generosity of donors and volunteers to achieve its mission. We were lucky enough to get some nice early big gifts, as well as there was a scholarship, the Cushing Foundation? Cushing Fund, a scholarship that was set up that had sort of been administered by the town, but a little forgotten, and Fred and John were able to bring that under our funds as well, and our funds are managed by Bass Savings, so well taken care of. So the foundation started to fundraise, and we originally had a goal of $1 million, and we reached that between the Cushing Fund and private funds, and decided that when we had our first selection of kids, I think we had 26 or 7 applying for 2 scholarships at that point, that we needed to do more. So we raised the amount our end goal to be about $2 million, which would then let us actually have 8 kids for vocational, for four-year school, four-year program scholarships each year. The key to our scholarship foundation, John and Fred did a lot of research, and one of the pieces that kept coming up with the ones with larger grants where they had mentorship programs. So each of our kids is paired with a mentor throughout the time that they have their scholarship with us. And studies have shown that kids who are paired with mentors, really that makes a difference. Their success rate is a lot higher. For what we found so far with the students that we've awarded, many come from single-family homes. They may be first generation. So that mentorship piece is huge. You know, the financial piece is a big part of it, but the mentorship piece we feel is the jewel. So this year we had 33 students apply, and it's sort of heart-wrenching when you sit in that room and have to make that decision. They did a great job, and we chose 2. We didn't have any kids apply for the vocational, but part of that this year is the governor has, for the next, I think we're in the second year of maybe 3, community colleges free. So those kids, I think, are all set. At least they weren't coming to us. So we awarded 2, one to a junior and one to a senior. Very exciting. I had the honor of presenting those awards. And again, they'll each get $5,000 a year for 4 years. They'll be paired with a mentor. Our winners this year, or our award winners, are Jean Antoine, the class of 2023, and Rosie Panenka, the class of 2024. And Gene is on his way to study civil engineering at Loyola Marymount, and Rosie's still deciding. But we hope with the juniors that this gives them the idea that they can reach higher because of the support they're getting and the opportunities they're getting. So
what?
do you want to say a few words and then I'll end?
Where'd you leave off?
I just was talking, so.
You're just talking? The thing that's really compelling is the level of need. And if any of you have kids who have either gone through college or are about to enter college, the cost of college is going up faster than most people's incomes. So it makes it even more difficult for some of these kids to be able to go on to college, even though some of the packages may be good. And of the 33 applications, there were a few that were not qualified because of their family income. But if that's 2 or 3, that was the most. And it's just heart-wrenching, as Stephanie said, to watch these kids not have the opportunity that they deserve. And this project is not like the track and field project. The track and field project, for all of you who are on the board then know, was a one-shot deal. And there was a huge amount of support that came from the school department in the end in order to make it happen. But this is a long slog because the pool of potential donors is smaller. And people who are having their own kids go through college really can't afford or don't want to participate in donating to this program. So I've got a couple of questions. Are you ready for those? Mm-hmm. Is there an opportunity to get any money from the school budget? That's a question. I'm asking you. I'm asking whoever wants to answer.
So I feel like you'll know better than I, because we go through lots of things in the year, but you probably recall, we have been able to find sections, I don't think it was huge dollars, maybe $5,000 last year. Does that sound, no? 2 years ago? Time flies.
I think Becky was planning to take some of the year-end money and maybe allocate some of that, but upon talking with the attorney, he said no.
You can't do that.
Said no.
Oh, okay. So maybe that's what I was thinking.
I was wondering whether that was a function of the fact that it wasn't budgeted, as opposed to being something that was inappropriate. And if it is something that's inappropriate, I'd like to know why. But if it wasn't budgeted, we'd like to make a request next year.
Okay. So I think that's a fair question that we can certainly follow up with the attorney on why they felt like it wasn't something that could be done. And if it is something that's done, then the board could take it up as, something to consider.
We have we've done a little dog and pony show out on the road. We've gone to the select boards at Durham and Pownell and also to the town of Freeport requesting funds, and we'll continue to do that each year. Unfortunately, Durham, we missed their cycle, but we hope that we will have the towns. Right now, we currently have 7 scholars, and every year we're going to add an additional one. So
We'll have 8.
we'll have 8 that we next year, and not all of them are funded because if they're a junior, they don't get funded till they're a senior. So it's like juggling. We keep adding more balls, and so obviously we would like to grow the program, and
The plan has $1 million in cash and pledges right now, and our plan is to award 4% of the fund each year and expect that its growth rate over time will be 7%. So the fund will grow slowly over time, but if we're going to go out and get to $2 million so we can double the number of kids that we award to, we need to raise more money. And it's as I said, it's a long slog because it's, for the reasons I said.
But we can be very proud because we think we're probably the largest scholarship in the state. The Mitchell Foundation is $2,500 a year, and that one is one of the biggies. So
Yeah, that's $10,000.
you know, it's really an exciting thing that this is part of this community, and we hope that in the future we will get financial support, and we appreciate all your emotional support in
Yes.
guiding this project. And I'm going to just hand these out on our way.
Do you have any questions of us?
Yeah.
So just so I'm clear, maybe turn that one off. But yeah, there we go. Sometimes they interfere with each other. So at the $1 million level, you guys are able to sort of maintain over time the 4 scholarships a year. But based on the need you're seeing, you'd like to double that to 8. And to do that, you would really need to double it from $1 million to $2 million. Okay. All right. I just want to make sure I understood that.
Being a financial type, the 2 kids that we fund really only covers 3% of the need. And that's pretty abysmal, frankly. So we all work together and we can get it to 4%, maybe.
Thank
So,
you.
so we have a little bit of homework to do on that. But Maddie.
I don't have a question, but I just want to plug their work. Our family is involved as donors, not a lot because we don't have a lot, and we have a kid going to an expensive school, but we have made a continuing pledge, and I just want to encourage my fellow board members to consider joining us in that to the best of your ability, because this is really exciting. Also, I'm a mentor to a rising junior. And it's been a really rewarding experience. It's a lovely group of mentors, and I think we're always looking for more people who want to make that 2 to 4 year commitment to a student. I know that when I first went to college, I flunked out my first year, and if I'd had an adult outside of my family who was looking out for me, it would have made a tremendous difference. So it's really meaningful for me to be engaged in that way. So please spread the word and consider that also.
Yes, thank you. We do need mentors, and we need people to volunteer on our committees, and looking for board members, particularly in the Pownell and Durham communities. So if you know of anybody who's interested, I'll give you this information. We'd love to include them, and I'd reach out to anybody who wants to talk to me. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. So we'll do a little bit of homework and we'll get back to you with what we find. But I do, applaud the work you guys are doing. It's clearly a well thought out program. The concept of, awarding one to a junior so they can expand maybe what they would even consider about looking for a school next year is, I think is great. So was that Becky's saying? Yeah. Yeah, it was a good one. Thank you, guys.
Okay, back to other items in the superintendent's report. I'll go back to the number 1, which is resignations. We've received resignations from Steve True, who is a Freeport High School ed tech, and these are all effective at the end of the year. Isaac Porter, custodian, Moore Street School. Maggie Simon, administrative secretary, Pownell Elementary School. Natasha Huber, .5 guidance counselor at Durham Elementary School. And we'll move on to number 2, which is the safety drill update. And the board asked us to provide an update on how things went this year. So I've asked Ray Grogan, who's been instrumental in the safety committee for many, many years, serving on this committee and providing leadership, to give the board an update.
Ray Grogan, middle school principal and safety committee member. Just a quick update is all of our schools have done our safety drills. They went well. In most buildings, there were some students that did need an alternative plans that were arranged for them for a variety of reasons. The drills really helped us practice our procedures. And then also to be reflective on how we can become better at it. Those conversations happened at the building levels, happened at the administrative levels, and happened at the safety committee levels as well. With that, really the improvements that we have talked about in general are several of the buildings needing some PA updates. Is it too loud? Can you hear? Yeah, I couldn't hear it. So I was saying the big thing about the safety drills, it really allowed us to be kind of reflective on what we can do better and improve. The areas that we came back with, the primary were the PA systems, cameras and doors, which are all, you saw in the budgets and you'll probably see in some future budgets as well moving forward. And then the other big one is really needing a more comprehensive plan around training other people that are in the building that are not regularly in our building, like substitutes and volunteers like that, definitely we need an improved plan around that. That's really the kind of the quick update on where we are with the safety drills, and obviously continue to work and improve them for next year.
Questions for Ray? More?
Thanks, Ray. Could you expand on the PA system, cameras and doors piece of the improvements that you talked about?
Yeah, so I'll kind of take them one at a time. The PA systems in several of the buildings have areas that just clearly are not loud enough. Like examples of that would be our cafeteria, clearly not loud enough to hear there. Several of the buildings, the PA system's set up where there's a delay in what comes out, which also makes it hard. But it's really the volume that's and areas that have no sound coming out of it. With that, several of the PA systems are original from when the buildings were in, and some are new, but still just not good enough with that. And that, I believe, for some of the buildings is in the budget, and hopefully, we can get that all done this year. The cameras, in looking at, I can speak for Freeport Middle School and Freeport High School, really looking at some cameras that just need to be replaced because they don't work. We were trying to watch something at recess today, and one of them wasn't, is scheduled to be fixed this summer. There's a couple of that, and there's a couple of spaces that we just don't have a camera, and we'd like to add it. At the elementary level, it's really putting in cameras for the first time. So there's different levels of needs in the different schools. Currently, the high school, Durham, and Freeport Middle School, we have camera systems. And then doors, just doors. Some might be all glass, some might open the wrong way. Interior doors, exterior doors, some they just have a really hard time latching. And, our problems where if the teacher doesn't pull it all the way shut, it does stay open from the outside. So there's a variety of reasons. Interior doors, it's mostly they open the wrong way. And then exterior doors that don't latch well or are all glass. Are the primary issues, or some are just not safety issues and are just rusting out. And those ones are, to be honest, the ones that keep getting pushed down the list because they're still safe. They're just, probably allow critters in, but not people.
Thank you. I'm glad that the drills allowed you to identify those things.
Yeah, and I would say the feedback I've heard, I speak more with high school and middle school kids and staff than I do elementary. And I think, at those levels, the feedback hearing from kids and staff, it really made them feel more comfortable and relaxed knowing that there is this plan with the options. So I think, it really overall was a positive to make people feel better.
Kara?
That was going to be my question, if you could share more about the experience that the staff and the students were sharing after. I know there have been concerns about the social emotional well-being during the drills and after the drills, and I know that a few of us happened to be at the middle school during the drill, one of the drills. And so we got to be in the classrooms after and hear some of those conversations and some of the questions that the kids were asking the teachers. There were some big questions that were being asked. And
no, absolutely. And I think that Dr. Gilpin, who's our school psychologist, she's also on our safety committee and meets with the buildings and, helps, us plan with the guidance counselors and working with the kids around the social emotional side. And just like there are with fire drills, there are kids that emotionally can't do that, and we work with them. There are definitely kids, some kids that wanted to talk through it more and needed more, and others that were, we're just happy we did it, moved on. But I would say overall, when we've talked to kids, the feeling is they prefer this options and knowing what it is than the previous of just go in the corner and sit and wait. Like, it is a more comforting. And for staff, I would say the general is definitely like the options-based, and even the ones, I would say everyone likes the options-based better. Speaking for the middle school staff, I think there are some that are just really sad that this is the state of education and this is what we have to do. I mean, that was the toughest part, with there. Like, you had to start with really sorry, this is where we're at in education today. And I think was really bothersome to teachers, that we're at this point, that this is where we're dedicating time to. And, so I think that, being that emotionally ready for it, some were in different places than others.
Colin?
Yeah, thanks, Ray. This is not a question, just I'm also on the safety committee, so I think when I was in the last meeting, one of the questions that I asked on behalf of the board, because the board had raised this question of what really is the difference between what we were doing before and shifting to Alice, and to what you're speaking to, Ray, really what is the sort of general feeling. And I just took notes on what all of the staff members were saying, and it was to a person, it was just everybody feels much safer, feels that they just the options, as you were saying, Ray, feel really important. That it's a lot. One staff member was saying that yes, it brings up some uncomfortable feelings, but it also then allows for that to be talked about. And I think one of the staff members also spoke to just as how a lot of the educators feel much more empowered now with the options-based approach. So I just want to thank them for sharing those notes and being very aware that we had these concerns as a board, and being able to chat with us about that. And also to your point, when we asked Dr. Gilpin whether they were seeing sort of a rise of concerns, she was noting that there are, as you say, there are students that need this extra support, but there has been no acute incident after these events that have needed addressing.
And can you guys confirm that the safety committee has staff from all levels of the schools, right? I know you obviously.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, there's representatives from every building.
Okay.
And I mean, I can, speaking from like Moore Street, knowing my wife who's a kindergarten teacher, who has a door out the back of her classroom, she no longer has to hide and stay in school. She can be at L.O. Bean and with her class in no time flat. It makes me feel better as a community member knowing that she has an option to get out. So I think at all levels, people feel better.
Yeah, also just I think hearing from the school resource officer just was really helpful also, just in terms of hearing about how different it was from last year, and like what he's seeing in terms of the level of engagement. I think primarily at the high school, but just that as he put it, there's not as much moseying, there's not complacency. There's really a sense of the student engagement is just higher, and that sense of choice again. He was really emphasizing that. And he was also just very happy with how how that was going.
Could you talk a little more, Ray, about that support or the opportunity to get that support after the drills if students need it and what that looks like in practice?
So in practice, I think, it could be an additional conversation with, the teacher, just kind of talking them through it. It could be, with one of our social workers. It could be with, the guidance counselor. It could be with myself. It could be with a group of kids, with that. There were definitely a couple kids that had a lot more questions that everyone else didn't need to hear in a classroom. And, I sat down with several of those kids that just had more questions about what it was. So like that was just, for me, it was just taking the time to sit and talk with them to answer questions, not necessarily the counseling side, but, other kids that might have needed more on the counseling side. That's something that, a guidance counselor, would have, would talk to them and work with them on.
And I wonder how much of that is really because this is new, and as it sort of moves its way through, the younger, the more street kiddos who are seeing this earlier on, and it becomes the norm of how we deal with safety drills. Maybe those.
No, I think it absolutely is. I mean, this was the first for all 13 grades
Right.
or all 14 grades. So I think there is that, as we start to see the responsive classroom language get up to the middle school, we start to see the TC writing get up to the middle school, it's a lot different. It'll be similar with this.
I can't remember where this stood, but there was a mention in the safety committee meeting of how there is a bill that has been moving through the legislature to allow for an opt-out in this. Do you have an update on that by any chance?
Jean does.
Yeah.
Oh, Jean does.
So that bill is actually, and it's last I saw, it's ought to pass. And it is for the Department of Education to conduct a study with key stakeholders, including the Safety Council in Augusta. So they're going to grab a bunch of stakeholders together and explore that option. So, and that is ought to pass. So it won't be for an opt-out for next year, but when they complete their report, they'll bring that back and then they'll take that into consideration. But that is ought to pass right now.
Any other comments?
Susanna?
Oh, Susanna. Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for the follow-up. And I was going to also ask Colin's question, and now I'm getting feedback on this.
I turned mine off.
Okay. But I'm just wondering, on the opt-out, have you had increased rates of opt-out this year over how the drills were run previous?
Try this. No. And I'm speaking really at the middle school, high school level. Jean may know more about the K-5 level, but at the middle school, high school level, we really did not. I mean, there were several kids at that level that needed an alternative plan, and we put it in place and let the parents know in advance, hey, this is what we're thinking. Does that sound good for that? But, there really was, I mean, we have students that we have alternative plans for fire drills, still at the middle school level. And, I imagine that's higher at the elementary and lower at the high school. So we're still, regardless of what the law is, we're going to be making alternative plans to make sure they have the skills to be successful.
And are students after...
Oh, no.
I don't know, I'm scared of this thing. After drills, if students feel they need more support, some students you'll be checking in with anyway, but for other students, is a conversation with you or with the guidance counselor, you say that's an option, is that something that students can readily access if that's something they need, or is that something they need to seek out, or is that something that you're really seeking out, those particular students?
I think all of the above. I think, the biggest group that we saw that just needed more questions or something were teacher referrals saying, can you check in with this child? Can you check in with this child? Or, some were say, let's go down and get you to the person with that. That was really the biggest source at the middle school, high school level was teacher.
Okay,
referral.
so it's...
Yeah.
Right, so it's not necessarily up to the student to just say.
No, there were some
necessary.
students that
Right.
did it on their own, but
Yep.
there was the biggest source was truly teacher referral.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
And I guess I would just clarify that an alternative option is not an opt-out. So it's similar to our fire drills. We don't have an opt-out option because it's considered for the safety of the school. But that is what the potential law could end up providing, is a legal opt-out for parents if they so chose. So we currently do not have that.
Right. Now, the skills and the process were still done, just in a different way.
Yeah, and that was going to be, I guess, part of that, because yes, thank you for clarifying. I was thinking that the opt-out would be the alternative. I mean, if people said they were opting out of the new approach, it would be an alternative approach. But there was some concern raised about allowing an opt-out, and I don't know if this is an actual true opt-out versus an alternative, about if students had that option, that when they were in a class, if they needed to perform a drill in a non-drill circumstance, that there wouldn't be, the entire class wouldn't necessarily know what to do, and that could hinder the process. Is that still a concern, or is that not a concern with the alternative?
So not with the alternative assessment. So like we'll have a science test, and all the kids get the science test. But there are some kids that need an alternative assessment, some kids that need an alternative assessment in another place, some kids that need the same assessment in a different place. There's multiple ways to assess the skills and multiple ways to teach the skills, and that's kind of the same thing we'll do with this. Like the skills that we want to make sure they have, you know, in that alternative way, we're still making sure they have those skills. It's just not in the way we're doing it with 99% of the kids, you know, just like we would do in a science classroom.
Great, thank you.
So just to answer also your question about the other, like the alternative plans and the other levels, the note that I had was just at the only other place where we talked about it was at Morris Street School, and it was the same for the second drill as it had been for the first drill. So there were two, and so that number didn't shift from the first to the second.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ray. Number 4, we added an item this evening for a special education staffing update. And we're looking, I'm going to have Dr. Sellers come up and explain why. But what we've been doing is really looking at our data and student needs for next year. And we're finding that we're going to have have an additional teacher for special education at Mass Landing. It will be at no cost to the taxpayer or expense out of the budget we've just passed, because we'll pay for it through local entitlement funds. But we want to make you aware of that need, and Dr. Sellers can tell you a little bit more why we're going to need to do that.
Sure. Good evening, board members. We are requesting a new teacher position at Mass Landing, so we've had a bit of a disproportionate increase in our students with IEPs at Mass Landing. So we're going from 34 students enrolled this past year to 43 students for next year. So that's 4 new third graders. So we have teacher number 1 currently has 20 students on their caseload. So 4 new third graders, on that. In one caseload, we have 14 students on another teacher's caseload with 2 new third graders. We have 9 students on the caseload of our LIFT program. If you recall, that's our functional life skills program that we've renamed to LIFT, Learning, Independent Functioning, and Transition. Our students with more significant neurodevelopmental disabilities. We have 3 new third graders coming into that program, all that require one-on-one assistance. We also have 2 students in referral that are looking like they may qualify in the 4th grade. And we have pending enrollments of 3 new 5th graders with IEPs, 2 of them with significant needs. So definitely Mass Landing is going to be in need of another teacher for our special education program.
So this is purely informational. We don't need to do anything with this today, right? Okay.
If the position is going to be paid, I'm not sure if I should ask you or Jean, but if it's going to be paid with entitlement funds the first year, is it just a 1-year position that we're creating, or is it going to be potentially ongoing and shifted into the budget?
It's potentially going to be based on need. It may be shifted into the budget next year, like we've done with some of these other positions for the funding that way. And it's, I always say timing's everything. And at the time when we developed the budget, the need was not there. But because of move-ins and new identification, it's really popped. So we'll have to look at budget time where we are with the numbers and if we're still there. And it is potentially going to go to the budget next year.
Thank you. So are we creating it as a one-year position or as a permanent position?
It would be a 1 year.
So the 9 student increase, is that at Mass Landing, or that's at, you said 34 to 43? That's just it. So the current 3 grades, we have 34, but with the new incoming 3rd grade class.
The incoming 3rd grade class, some new students who have enrolled at Mass Landing, because we have several, many of them are new 3rd graders.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not sure your mic is on.
So many of them are rising 3rd graders from Moore Street, but we have had some new students enroll in the other grade levels as well.
Other questions? Great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Making sure. All right. So number 9, administrator reports. So we only have one on the agenda. So this is Peggy. So Peggy will give us the updated finance report, but this is the last report we'll get from Peggy because this is our last meeting here in June. So just wanted to thank you again for being willing to step up and take on a big task in the finance position. And we have appreciated all your hard work. But there you go.
That's very kind of you. In fact, I was planning to say the exact same thing back. So congratulations to all of you on passing the budget. That's a job well done, and everyone worked really hard. So thank you for that. So the May financials were in your packets, and 92% of the fiscal year has passed. On the report, you will see that 82.3 of the revenues were received. However, that was low because we had a few things come in later, including $37,330.94 in interest for the month. And the Freeport contribution and the state subsidy also came in a little bit later. So we did really well this month. And 78.1% of expenditures took place. The Finance Committee just met, and we had Marge Hall, our auditor, join us from Barry, Talbot, and Royer, and she went over her report, which she's hoping to get finalized tomorrow. And so we should be able to submit that in plenty of time for our audit extension before the end of the month. So yes, this is my last time in front of you, so I wanted to express my gratitude to all of you board members for being so helpful and encouraging, and especially the members of the Finance Committee that are on the board also, Michelle and Beth and Maura. And I really appreciate the support and the encouragement. I've learned many things, and I'm proud of what we've accomplished. And I'm grateful that I was given the wise mentor of Scott Vatonis during FY22. I also want to give a shout out to my really wonderful department for their extremely hard work. Gail Trask, our payroll coordinator, and Dawn Stevens, our accounts payable coordinator, and Ashley Rand, our human resources coordinator. They're an awesome team, and we've had a lot of good hard work done. I notified the Finance Committee in March that I didn't wish to apply or pursue the permanent role, yet I wanted to completely fulfill my contractual obligation that I made to former Superintendent Dr. Becky Foley and this wonderful district. I've accomplished my goal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peggy. Okay. So we will move on to number 10 on our agenda, board comments and committee reports. I guess this is technically our second meeting, so board information exchange and agenda requests. Maddie.
I just wanted to follow up that congratulations we got about passing the budget. And for anybody who's listening out there who participated in the election process this year, I want to thank you for participating. Feels like turnout was very quiet, rather low. And so I just wanted to say for the record and beg of the public not to take this for granted, that we this administration works really, really hard all year long. And we've got it down to a pretty seamless process when at the board level, but it's a lot of feet paddling pretty fast to make that appear seamless, and we should not take it for granted. And please stay engaged, and please continue to vote in the off-cycle elections. And I also just wanted to congratulate Jean for passing her first budget with us and continuing that that will hopefully be a long-standing tradition.
Thank you.
This falls under the information exchange. It's very important that the board know that Freeport just beat Wells 9-5. Board rep, not Teagan, but board rep Piper Williams, no doubt saved many, many goals. So congratulations to the girls lacrosse team. Sorry, informationally, that's not...
Information exchange.
Informational congratulations.
Informational congratulations. That's fantastic. I did also want to say that I got to attend and participate in graduation this last weekend, and 135, is that right? 43. 143, I was close. Amazing graduates walked across the stage at the Merrill Auditorium, and it was an amazing event, as it always is. And it's not the only reason I do this job, but it's really one of the best days of the year, and it makes all the hard work and all the difficult things we grapple with worthwhile to see those kids and their families. And it was an incredible day, and the speeches were incredible, and Jen did a wonderful job. And our Jason Ouellette was the staff speaker, and he did a fantastic job as well. I don't know if the video is up on the link that was sent out.
For the public to know, unfortunately, we've been informed that it did not record the audio, so we apologize. Jen has sent out information. It just happened, and we apologize. I'd also like to, if I just piggyback on Michelle for a second, that the chorus was amazing. The kids that sang were amazing as well. So just so really, really proud of those kids as well.
Yeah, and the fact that they get it all done in 76 minutes is incredible. Like, I checked my timestamp of like when they tossed their hats in the air, and it was 76 minutes, and didn't feel rushed, but it was great. It was a fantastic event. So highly encourage everyone to attend. And if you do attend in the future, you get front row seats, just letting you know. Sorry, Danielle. Colin.
Sorry, information request. How many backflips were done?
Two were attempted and landed, and one more looked like he was going to, but decided not to. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah, they were back to back. Like, it was like one and then the other, and then the next kid was like, no. He knew. So, Maura.
He's like celebratory backflips?
Yes, as they were walking across the stage to get their diploma.
Oh my God. Sounds like an exciting graduation. I know we all have our things that we bring up, and so you'll all laugh because I'll bring up the electric buses again. I feel like that's my one that I always have to put forward. So I'll do my my due diligence on that. The federal grant period has opened for applying for electric buses, so I just wanted to share that. I don't know if we applied for the state one before or the federal, but I guess I believe they're both. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you. All right. Any other exchanges? That's great news that they won. Colin came in looking a little glum because they were down. Thankfully, none of the rest of us doubted.
I was extremely stressed out.
Yeah.
I have an information request. Is there any opportunity we could have to get an update on Region 10, kind of end of year
Like right now? You want us to
Either
just, like,
now
grab
or
somebody?
sometime in the future. I realize we talk about it a lot during the year, but there's not actually a moment where I realize we actually hear anything about sort of how things end up at the end of the year there. So I just wonder whether that might be possible in August, if not now.
It's definitely possible, but we haven't had our last meeting yet. We're still coming. So,
Yeah, I think it's a great idea to put it on the list of potential. I mean, we can always do just updates on how things are going, but I do think, given what they have going on and some of their big plans that they would like to see come to fruition, maybe next year on the list of workshops, it might be time to do one on Region 10 again. I think it's been quite a while since we've done that, so.
it's definitely something that could be reported from time to time, not necessarily every board meeting, but definitely, yep.
Okay.
And if I could add, speaking with Sean, he's very willing to come anytime to speak to the board as well, that we could.
That would be great.
We could do that.
He's the superintendent, by the way, when
Yes.
she said Sean.
Just anybody named Sean, just come chat. All right. Anything else? So just a reminder, we had the list of board meetings last week. The first one is August 25th, 24th. I don't know. I should have looked before. 23. There we go. August 23rd, which will be our retreat. So usually that day we meet earlier in the day. So it's usually 4:30 to 8:30 time frame. What's that? 4, somewhere in there. It's before 6:30. So just sort of block your calendar for late afternoon through the evening. And that's kind of where we approach all the things we've talked about wanting more information on and prioritizing the work for the upcoming year and workshops we'd like to have. And because I know we always appreciate the workshops when they provide them, but they do take a fair amount of time and effort on the staff's part to put those together. So we want to make sure we're not asking too much in addition to their actual day jobs of teaching our kids. So just keep that in mind, and all the times that we try to keep a good list running of what people have mentioned, and obviously electric buses and Region 10 and all those things will be on the plate for consideration when we meet in August. Okay, everybody good? So we don't have any policy review this evening. So we will move to 12, unfinished business. So as Peggy alluded to and Maddie mentioned, we did pass the budget in all 3 towns, which I love to see. Not only did it pass in total, every town was supportive at least 60% approval rate, which is great. I think that's probably the highest we've seen. But so thank you to everyone who was involved in the process and who came to our 3-town meeting in Durham, as well as those who got out and voted yesterday. So thank you for that. And do I have a motion to move that the computation and declaration of votes dated June 14th, 2023 and attached hereto be approved? Further moved that the computation and declaration of votes be entered upon the records of Regional School Unit Number 5, and further moved that a certified copy of the computation and declaration of votes be sent to each of the municipal clerks in the member municipalities within Regional School Unit Number 5. Maura and Maddie, thank you. All those in favor? None opposed, thank you. And so the second part of that is we set the warrant assessment schedule. So basically, this sets the schedule for bills that we'll send to the towns to collect the tax portion of the budget. So do I have a motion to move that the warrant for assessment and tax and the assessment schedule and notice of installments for each member municipality prepared by the treasurer for the fiscal year July 1, 2023 to June 30, 2024 be approved and be issued in form and presented to this meeting, and that the treasurer is authorized and directed to deliver to each member municipality its warrant for assessment of tax and its assessment schedule and notice of installments? Susanna and Danielle, thank you. All those in favor? Great, none opposed. So this is the one that we have to sign. So I think Peggy's put them on the table behind her. So that's when when we get to a break in our agenda here, we'll ask that everyone go and sign the assessment warrants. And then the other piece of the election yesterday that I wanted to acknowledge is that we will have a new board member from Pownell starting on July 1st. Malik Farlow, thank you. Malik Farlow will be joining us on July 1st, so congratulations to her. And I did want to, while he wasn't joining us this evening, I did want to thank Ben for his willingness to step up and volunteer to fill in that seat when we had our panel member unexpectedly have to step away. So thank you to Ben for the time he took to get up to speed and to get educated and to participate in this process in the few months he was with us on the board. So thank you to that, and congratulations to Malik. We look forward to, I haven't met her yet, so I'm looking forward to meeting her. All right, so new business. Do I have a motion and for consideration and approval to authorize the superintendent to hire staff between June 15th, 2023 and the first board meeting in September 2023? Kelly, thank you. Susanna. So basically this prevents us having to meet and approve the hiring of staff. This leaves that in Jean's capable hands over the summer so they can fill any remaining openings between now and our next meeting. So all those in favor? Great, none opposed. Okay, so section 14 is all of the committees. So I'm going to throw something out there. So we have to do board chair and vice chair, and we have to do the attorney and the physician. But what are people's thoughts on maintaining the existing committee assignments through the retreat in August? So some thoughts around that being it allows Malik to get her orientation and read about the committees that she might be interested in. It also allows the work that's already ongoing. I know there's obviously some, there's negotiations going on. There's some strategic communications survey work that's going on. So this allows that work to continue through the summer. If you were on a committee, you'll stay on that committee until we meet in August. And then the last piece that it does is it allows the superintendent to come to us in August with a potential charge of a facilities committee that we talked about with sustainability, as well as a curriculum committee, which she would like to bring before the board. So that way we don't all pick committees and then have to reshuffle them again in August. Folks' thoughts on that? Maddie, you good with that?
Are there any committees that are unfilled at the moment that need a body in them?
I don't think so. It's a really great question, though, Kelly. Yeah, so there is a spot on Region 10, but Candy can maintain her spot on that through the summer, and I think you probably only have one more meeting. Most of the committees don't meet over the summer. There's some that just have some residual work they're working on. So everybody okay with that? Okay, so we will not do C1 through 14. We do need to do chair and vice chair, though. So I will. Fred said he was going to make a nomination for chair, but he chickened out. Maddie.
I nominate that we keep Michelle Richardson as chair and Beth Munson as vice chair.
Anyone else want to volunteer? Look at that. We can even do it in one vote, huh? Any other discussion, thoughts? No? Okay. So do I have a motion for consideration and approval to appoint myself as the chair for the RSU5 Board of Directors to take effect July 1st? I guess I'll just continue. And Beth Munson as vice chair for the RSU5 Board of Directors. Susanna and Danielle. I'll just say thank you for your trust in me I do appreciate it. So thank you.
I guess I'll say thank you too.
Maura.
I'm going to thank you both for doing such a great job.
All right. All those in favor? None opposed. Thank you. That means I get to hand my kid his diploma next year. I'll kick you off policy. Yeah, please, please. I know, yeah. Is that a promise? All right. So we do have to do 15 and 16, though. So do I have a motion for consideration and approval to appoint Drummond Woodsum as the school attorney and Dr. Stephanie Phelps as the school physician? Kelly and Susanna. We do this every year. They haven't changed in many years, but we do have to authorize it each year. So that's why that's on here. All right. Yep. Question?
Just for the sake of understanding, what, how would we go about, or what would be the conditions under which we would be changing our attorney, or like the last time we did it? Was
changing our attorney? I don't know. So I think Drummond Woodsum does 80, maybe? I don't know. Maybe not that much. Certainly in Southern Maine, of the school districts, they have a whole practice area that specializes in school education, whether it's contract law or HR law or special education law. So I'm not sure what would have to happen for us to change that. I do imagine if we wanted to undertake a change to our attorney, it would probably have to go through the bid process based on the size of the amount of money we spend on legal expenses each year. Is that fair to say? Have you ever gone through a change of attorney at a district? No. Now you got them worried, Colin. Good work. Keep them on their toes.
You're really nice people down there. You have a nice view of the highway.
They do, actually, yeah. Maddie.
Yeah, I've worked with a fair number of attorneys in my past working life, so I consider myself a bit of an expert. I'm not really, just a fan, sort of. I am appreciative of Drummond Woodsum's expertise, and the every opportunity we've had to engage with them, I think has been really great. And I just want to say this out loud because, folks are watching, and it's not without thought, So I've attended the conference, I think, every October that I've been on the board, and had the opportunity to hear from some other firms. And I'm very happy with our representation. I think we have just the crackpot firm, and we should keep it.
I don't know if crackpot's
I think you mean crack shot.
Is it crackpot?
I think you mean Cracker
Jack.
Cracker Jack.
Whatever. Don't tell anyone I said that.
I don't think they're going to use that testimonial in their brochure.
Can I just follow up on that? That at the same conference that Maddie's referring to, often Drummond Woodsum, various different attorneys from their office have presented, or they presented last October, and those were extraordinarily useful and extraordinarily in depth, and they're very sensitive to questions that were coming from all sorts of different areas. So that also just another plug for all board members, whether you've been before or haven't, to go, because that's also one of the high points, to be with the crackpots.
I can't wait to see one of them and tell them. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any other comments? All those in favor? Are we voting?
Voting.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so 15 is personnel, and we have three adjustments for 3 staff members we are looking to add.
Would you like a motion for the first one?
Okay. do I, hold on. Oh, yes, I do have the motions. Sure. A, so do I have a motion for consideration and approval to employ a .5 Spanish teacher at Freeport High School for the 23-24 school year? Maura, thank you. And Susanna? Who's taking the minutes? Where's Cynthia?
I am.
Oh.
Cynthia is at Cynthia is at a lacrosse playoff game for her grandson. So
Okay.
I offered to take the minutes so she could see him play. He is also a high school graduate from another school. So I present to you this evening Emma Dorian. She has a BS in Spanish and International Affairs from Suffolk University, a master's in Educational Leadership from the University of Tampa. She is certified. Her certification, main certification, is pre-K-12 Spanish. Some relevant experience: she's been a world language teacher at Hyde School in Bath, a program director for Hyde Foundation in Brooklyn, New York, a character education coordinator for the Hyde Leadership Charter School in New York. She's been dean of students at Central Florida Leadership Academy in Orlando, Florida. And she is currently the world language teacher at HB Plant High School in Tampa, Florida. References describe Emma as self-reflective, creating student-centered learning, is a facilitator of learning, and has outstanding problem-solving skills and a sharp strategic mind.
Great. Another move into the state. Interesting. Move back, right, that's true. Does she teach Latin?
She does not, that I'm aware of.
Because that'd be great if we could fill
It
both
would.
those spots. All right, any other questions? Great. All those in favor? None opposed. All right, B, do I have a motion for consideration and approval to employ an assistant principal at the Moore Street School for the 2023-2024 school year? Kara and Maura, thank you.
And this, as we know, is a new position that has just been funded through the budget vote that we just received. And I present to you Amanda Marsden. She has a BA in elementary education and sociology from Western New England College and a master's in special education from New England College. Her certification, she does hold a K-8 teaching certificate as well as an assistant building administrator certificate. Relevant experience: she's been a teacher at the New England Center for Children in Southborough, Mass., a teacher at the Margaret Murphy Center for Children in Auburn, a kindergarten teacher at Memorial School in New Gloucester, and for the past 9 years, she's been a teacher at Pond Elementary School in Cape Elizabeth. References describe Amanda as dynamic, setting high standards for herself and others, a dedicated educator, demonstrating leadership, having a drive for continuous growth and improvement, and dedicated to doing what is best for children.
Comments or questions? All right. Oh, Maura?
Oh, I was just going to say it's great to see the size of the candidate pool, and I think that is just a reflection of how desirable our district is, and I'm really excited for Julie to have this position to support her.
Agreed. All right. All those in favor? None opposed. Thank you. All right. Last one under personnel. Do I have a motion for consideration and approval to employ a .5 social worker at the Durham Community School for the 2023-2024 school year? Susanna and Beth, thank you.
And this, again, is the .5 social worker that was funded through the new budget. I present to you Heidi Richards. Heidi has a bachelor's in social work from Marist College in Poughkeepsie, New York, a master's in social work from the University of New England. She is a licensed clinical social worker. Relevant experience: she was the lead clinician for Children's Assertive Community Treatment in Home and Community Treatment at Counseling Services in Westbrook. She was a social worker and clinical coordinator for Tripp Middle School in Turner, and most recently has been a social worker in grades K-5 at Falmouth Elementary School. References describe Heidi as a gifted social worker, an active listener, a clear communicator, willing to have hard conversations, trustworthy, transparent, very approachable, and child-centered.
Great. Questions or comments? All right, all those in favor? None opposed. Thank you. All right. So we are back to public comment. You good? Okay. Thank you for hanging in there with us. And then I will take a motion for consideration and approval to enter into, do you care which one we do first? Yeah, you named it 19. We'll do that one second. Consideration approval to enter into executive session as outlined in 1 MRSA section 4056A for the purpose of discussing the superintendent's evaluation. Maura and Candy, thank you. All those in favor? None opposed? Great. I love this new system of just going to a room. I'm sure they love it better too. All right, so we will take this offline and thank you guys, and we'll see you next fall. Oh yes, before we go back there, on your way to the back room. What? I don't know, does this one have to be in order?